Right guys, here we are again, out recording bats. I've set up some Clippy Ultras on a tripod right here on this stand overlooking those mountains. It's recording into a Zoom F3. The settings, 32-bit float, 192 kilohertz, volume or gain setting of 512, recording in stereo. If you watched my last video, you'll know that we're trying out a kind of a method to record bats. And part of that is to say what the weather is. So the weather tonight, according to the forecast, is overcast, but as you can see, that's not quite right. It's basically a blue sky with a few clouds. The wind speed is 9 miles an hour, but it's not. It's much less than that. It's about 4 or 5. It's coming from the southwest, and it says it's going to be around 13 degrees. But it is about 13, but everything else was wrong. As you know, we're going to do a bug factor. So the bugs around me now, are they low, medium or high? I'd say they are low to medium. I am getting chewed by midges right at the moment, but there's not that many of them. And our environment, we're basically in a mountain pass, as you can see. And here's the river that we were on last night, but that was further up. And this is where it comes down into this area here, and that actually goes into a tunnel and goes around a lake. Now the lake is down this way. This is the spill off. Just in case the river overflows, it spills off down into this lake. But the actual river itself goes through a tunnel onto the other side of the lake. There are reasons for that.
When are the bats?
Oh, they'll come out now once it gets once the dusk comes.
Sort of.
So about 20 minutes after dusk. Right, let's get back to it. I just bumped into somebody, had a bit of a chat about what I was doing, and now let's get back to the environment. So we know we're in a mountain valley next to a river. There's trees around, there's quarries and rock faces up here, and there are tunnels over in that direction that lead into old copper mines. Right, so we're all set. We're just waiting now for dusk to come, which is at 5 minutes past 9. I'll press record and we'll see what happens. So I might stay close to the mic to begin with, and then when I'm getting really midged, I might walk away. But there are a reasonable amount of midges and moths which seem to be increasing as the darkness comes. Now I don't know what that'll mean. Does that mean that there's so many bugs around that the bats don't need to come to me? I don't need to be the bait for the bugs? Or does it still work? Will I still be the bait for the bugs? So I'll give it a try. I'll spend some time by the mic, then some time away from the mic, and then we can actually see on the audio spectrogram whether I'm still an attractant for the bugs, for the bats to come to, or whether there's just enough bugs anyway, so the bats won't really need to come to me. We'll figure it all out. Right, I'll see you back at the house later. Right guys, here we are. I've loaded those up into RX, so let's head over to my screen and we'll take a look. Right guys, after I pressed record, I hung around for quite a while and I didn't see any bats for ages. So here, in the first 20 minutes of the recording, you can see there's no bats. There may be one there, one there, one there. Then after about 20 minutes, or here 19 minutes, a bat appeared, and I did start to see them at that time, but there weren't very many. What they seemed to be doing was coming out of the rock face and basically flying off. and I think this spectrogram shows that. Now let's head over to the next one. So the second 23 minutes or so. Here you can see right at the beginning there's still hardly any, and then they slowly build up until about 12 minutes into this one. So that's about 35 minutes after dusk, which means, do we really need to start recording at dusk, or shall we go half an hour after dusk? As I said, I'd use myself as bait for a while, and I did, but I don't think it made any difference because I was there across this time period. So I was looking, so if you go to this early part, I was being bait there, and if you go to this part where it's busy, I was also being bait. But if you remember, the bug factor was medium to high, and the bug factor was quite high. And as we were saying, if there's loads of bugs around, even if you're making yourself bait for bugs, there's so many bugs, the bats ain't necessarily going to go to you. It worked on the previous night, but tonight it didn't. And when I was looking around, there seemed to be much less bats around me, but I could see them flitting around in the air above, but not around my head. So if we go to the last piece of audio, and this is just over 3 minutes worth, and there's something I'd like to point out straight away, and that is we got different bat calls coming in at different kilohertz levels. I think that's the sonar or the calls. I don't actually know. I don't know anything about bats. But these long ones coming down here, they're calls, and they're the ones that are coming down into the audible range, like we talked about in the last video. Those are the ones where if your hearing's good, you'd probably be able to hear if you listen to them. But for now, we're going to concentrate on these ones at the top. If I just zoom in a bit, check this out. So bat calls are measured from where their tails end. And there are 18 species of bat apparently in the UK, and they fall into groups where each group seems to sound off at a different kilohertz range. So some are between the 55 to 60, which we can see here there are. Some are between the 50 and 55, which we can see here. Also the 45 to 50, which we can see here. And we've got this here, which I don't quite know what that is. That's around 36. So maybe that's another type of bat. I don't know what type they are. Like I said, they fall into groups, and within the groups there are a few different bats. Now when I first saw this, I thought it was a bit of an artifact from recording in stereo. We've split the stereo into the left and right tracks, and we can see that the calls at different levels are still there, which means it's not an artifact of stereo. But it does make me think, is there any need to record in stereo? If you want the sound of a bat coming through one earphone, going out of the other, then yes. But if you just want the sound itself, it may be better to record in mono. But that's something we'll get onto in the future. But for now, I'm going to take this back. I'll bring in the EQ. I'll clean up to the 14 kilohertz range. There we go. Let's see if we can find a gap. Let's bring up spectral denoise. Learn. Let's click off it. Let's render that. Let's see what happens. There we go, we've cleaned it up a bit. So this is an extra step from what we were doing in the previous videos. Drop it into the audible range. We're going to have the stretch ratio at 800 and the pitch shift at 3 octaves, I think it is. Let's hit render. Let's turn that off. And here it is, guys. That's a lot cleaner than the previous videos, but what does it sound like? Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, let's increase the gain a bit. Let's try 5. Alright guys, so in this bit here we can see we've got bats at different levels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight either side, delete these. I'll play it as an audio spectrogram and I'll leave it at the end of this video. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.